What's going on, everybody? This is Dashaun, Vice President of Self-Publish in 30 Days. Welcome back to another very special episode of Author Spotlight. I'm here today with my man, Eugene Holloman. What's up, Eugene?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here, man. I've been a fan of what you've been doing for a long time. Quick story before we dive into Eugene's story and all that. This was probably about 2 years ago. I was on LinkedIn. I was scrolling through, and I seen him put up a post where he was working on the book. I believe it was in 2018. You were probably working on sophomore year, right? Of the book.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm scrolling through, and he took a picture of the book he was working on, and it was just one paragraph in the picture, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, this is dope. I don't know like what the rest of the book is about, but I consider myself, I'm a pretty tough critic when it comes to writing. So I like if a book doesn't interest me, I just put it away. And just from that one paragraph, I was like, this man is a talented writer. And since then, I've been able to follow the journey and watch everything he's been doing. But let me read the bio so I can get out the way so you know who we dealing with.
Man, it's been
today.
2 years ago. That's crazy. Time flies, man.
Isn't it, man? Isn't
Yeah.
it? But just to get, all right, I'm gonna let the people know, in case they've been living under a rock and they don't know who you are, man. You know what I'm saying? Eugene Holloman is a former two-time all-conference running back at James Madison University. Growing up, he had aspirations of playing pro football after college, but after two significant knee surgeries before his senior year, his plans were derailed. So we're gonna get into, I think that's a great part to start, a great point for us to start, man, because I want to talk about the books. In case you don't know, Eugene is also the author of The Athlete Student. Freshman and sophomore year is out now. Go get that. Junior year is in the works, folks. But
absolutely.
Let's just dive in, man, because this is gonna be on the Thrive After Sports podcast as well. So I think a good start off point would be to talk about what happens after those two knee surgeries. Like, were you able to bounce back? How did the journey unfold from there?
So I think I got to give a little context before I jump in there. So my junior year at JMU, I'm killing it. I transferred in from a junior college, so I technically started off as a junior when I arrived at JMU. And they already had these two senior running backs who were all conference that led JMU to a national championship, a year prior. And so I was supposed to, redshirt since I never redshirted before. But spring ball came around and I was killing it. Basically, the way it works is that the number one defense goes against the number two offense, like quote unquote, like the scout team. Our number ones, they couldn't. It got that all conference running backs got hurt. Another one got suspended, and I was the next man up. And so we go to Appalachian State, who was the number one team in the nation at the time, and that was my coming out party. And from there, I never relinquished my starting spot. I ended up rushing for 1,200 yards, whatever, how many touchdowns, name all conference. And going to my senior year, I was projected to get drafted. We had University of North Carolina on our schedule, like a big time ACC opponent. The scouts would come in to see me play. After your junior year, you do a junior day where the scouts come time you. I clocked the full 3. Like, everything was lining up for me. My dreams were about to come true. And University of North Carolina, I remember taking a pitch to the right, and they had this this beastie defensive line, bro, like just mammoths up there, and two would come barreling down on me. I ended up trying to go left. I was going right, stuck my foot in the ground, and just like that, man, I shattered some ligaments in my knee, and I saw my dreams just vanish right then and there. It's like it was it was hard to kind of envision me coming back and being the same person that I was, definitely when you go through 2 knee surgeries. So from there, man, I did graduate JMU, but education was not in my foreview, right? It wasn't a big thing to me. It was football. And so I did graduate, but my major was something that I wasn't interested in. It was just something that kept me eligible. And I came back home in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I went through like 2.5 years of deep depression. Mind you, because you have this dream since you was 5, and you get to be 20 years old, and you can still see that dream, and then it just snatched away from you. You know what I mean? I put all my energy and effort into that, and just to see it go, like, yeah, it did something to me psychologically, where I wanted to, like, in my life, like, I was looking for my father's gun one time, like, man, I can't do this no more, like, and good thing my father was good at hide and seek, because I couldn't find it, and I was going to just do it right then and there, and just think about it, like, something just because of football, right? So it seemed big at the time. When I think about it now, and I laugh, like, man, life is much bigger than that. But at the time, it was football, football, football. This is how I was going to, take care of my family. This is how I was going to live this magnificent lifestyle, like I see these athletes, live on MTV Cribs or on Instagram, right? Have the flyest cars, have the all the honeys. You know what I'm saying? Um, and so, it was devastating, and I battled, and I didn't believe in therapists or knew anything about therapy at the time, so I was trying to manage this thing myself, and it was tough, and I wish I would have went to a therapist. I could have, maybe came out this thing a lot earlier, perhaps maybe the school could have provided a therapist or something, but I dealt with it on my own, and I didn't deal with it to the best of my ability. Granted, I was thinking about suicide, so I'll stop there because I can go on and on. But that's how bad it got for me.
Eugene, man, I just want to say thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that part of your story,
Yeah,
because, I think we know a lot of athletes go through that, man, to the point where you
yeah,
were considering taking your own life. I had a few of those thoughts myself, you know what I mean? And I didn't even have the big dream of going to the NFL. I knew I wasn't going to the NFL, man, but still just
mm,
having that loss of identity and just trying to figure out who I was in the world, those thoughts started to creep up like, man, my life is over. I'm a nobody now. Um, and like you said, man, athletes have such a tough
mm.
time reaching out for help or just seeking out help or even knowing that we need help. What was it that brought you out of that space? Like, did you eventually start seeking help, or did you start doing a lot of work, internal work on yourself? Or what took you from the place where you're looking for your father's gun to like where you are now? What was like the next thing that got you out of that space?
Actually, it was one defining moment. And so when I couldn't find my father's gun, I actually called, a friend of mine, and I told him, what I was about to do, what I've been struggling with, because everybody, when you're even at the level of JMU, it's not like a big time SEC football team or anything, but when you're balling out and your name is in the paper, they selling your jerseys in a bookstore, right? People latch on to you. People calling you every day. They want to come up to the school and party with you after the games. And then when you get to the point where it's all gone, your phone stops ringing, and even then, people think like, "All right, you went to college," you know what I mean? Like he's all right, but I wasn't okay, and so I portrayed like I was okay to everybody else, but behind closed doors, I was struggling. But I ended up, make a long story short, calling someone, a friend of mine, and I was vulnerable, and instead of him just dismissing me, telling me I'm weak, he listened to me, and he said something that resonated with me to this day. He said, "The same energy that you had when you were a football player. I'm talking about that competitive nature, right? That getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to hit the weights, to go to practice, to take constructive criticism from your coaches, the ability to persevere, um, um, the, demonstrating leadership capabilities across the campus and to your team. You apply that to your life. Like, you didn't go through these things for nothing. There's a lot of um, life lessons that were in there that can be transferred outside. And so that thing clicked. And so I was like, man, I'm gonna fill out these applications and not take no for an answer, to at least find me a job to take care of myself. And ever since then, man, I'm like, I did learn a lot. Like football was like a college major. You just don't think about it like that. And when I started to process it and see things from that perspective, the game changed for me. It changed because I'm now competing. Like, I want to be the best at my job. I want to be the best. It's just like I would do a game. Like, it's wins and losses. And the times that I lost, I didn't get the job. Like, I can go back and see what I did wrong, just like we do in football. We watch the film, like, all right, I did this wrong, I did that wrong. All right, now I know the next time it comes, I know how to do it better. And so we tend to forget that. But we have, as athletes, no matter what level, we are given some really unique characteristics and the development of those characteristics that can be applied that the average person can't match if we are able to tap into it.
Right. That's the key. I love that you shared that too, man. If we're able to tap into it,
Yeah.
and you did a great job of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did you find or put yourself into a position where you can earn a living, take care of yourself, which is half the battle, right? Like, so you don't have to feel like you're a burden to anybody or, I've been,
right.
Waking up in my childhood bedroom was one of the hardest things for me after college, man. Like all my little Pop Warner trophies and stuff. I'm like, man. But yeah, man, but you took it a step further. Not only were you able to bounce back and put yourself in position, but you decided you were going to leave a legacy behind and contribute to the next generation of up and coming athletes. So how did the athlete student book series come about? Like, what made you decide to write a book?
So I got to go back and give you context to that too. So when I finally found my first job, man, is at a healthcare organization, which I currently still work to this day. I started off making $11 an hour. Like let's face it, it's not a lot of money. Definitely for a college graduate, you think you can, at least, make a salary after, the hard work of, kind of going through the rigors of school. But I started off making $11 an hour, and then I heard about this leadership development program that was a big thing for young recent graduates across the company. And I was like, I'm gonna apply for this bad boy. And everybody was telling me how I couldn't get into it. They don't really accept internal candidates and this, that, and the third. And so I sought out a mentor who kind of just, helped me so much. I used to wear like t-shirts to work and, you know what I'm saying? Like white tees. And it got to the point where he helped me to kind of like represent myself better, to even though like dress for the job, basically little stuff that I didn't necessarily think that factored in. And I was setting up meetings with these executives, like getting FaceTime with them. And this was a really competitive leadership development program where thousands of the applicants each year, and they only accept 10 associates. So you had people fly in from Stanford. It was 2 girls that flew in from LSU. It was huge because they do like just one all day interview process where you go to dinner, you do like a fishbowl exercise, and then you go through this rigor of interviewing against four different interviews basically. And I prepared for that thing like we were playing for the national championship. Like I gave it all. And 2 weeks later, I found out I was one of the 10 selected. So I went from making $11 an hour, to be transparent, to $45,000 a year for the 2-year program. And one of the other selectees into the program happens to be one of my best friends right now, one of the smartest guys I know. And we used to sit down and write down goals every year. And one of my goals that we both, wrote down was to continue our education. And so at this point, I was finishing up, my master's degree. He was like, you should go back and get your doctorate. And I was like, I ain't going back to get no doctorate degree. I'm done with school, man. I'm done with it. And he was like, because I had to, take out student loans for my master's. He was like, this is a way you can get those loans deferred. And then I was like, shoot, I ain't trying to pay on these student loans. And so the company will, basically pay my doctoral degree. And so I enrolled. And then, the first, I think, paper I had to write was some long, like 15-page leadership paper. And I was like, man, this thing is trash. And I gave it to my professor. And, she had some constructive, feedback for me. But at the end, she was like, Eugene, I think you are a really good writer. Another light bulb went off in my head. She was like, my professor, she could have been lying to me. I don't know. She was like, I think you're a really good writer. And so I was like, I'm gonna write about something I want to write about. And I just started writing, the athlete student freshman year, because I had the idea in my head. I kind of lived it. I've seen other people live it too, that, athletics is our way out. If you come from the inner city, this is the first gift that you find. It's easy to identify that gift. It's hard to identify another gift like writing or someone who's like a good debater, or whatever those gifts are, good with their hands. But athletics is easy. You run fast, or you're out in the playing hide and go seek, and you're quicker than everybody else. This guy's gonna be the next such and such, and so that thing can stick with you. And this is a way that you can take your mama out the hood, or you don't have to struggle. And so for the inner city, this is how we get to college. Like, I couldn't afford college. um, Getting a scholarship was my only way that I was going to see college, definitely with my GPA. And so, make a long story short, that is how I, start writing it, just by going through that whole process, man. It was a long, maybe 3-4 year process, just meeting people recognizing something in myself, and then having the boldness to just say, man, get it. I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna put it out there. And that's what I did, man. And now I'm on, my third book, and I'm going to finish the series, and it's just getting better and better too.
Yeah, I'll say it's definitely getting better and better, man. Can you give a breakdown? Because when you were going into it, was the plan all along to do a series, meaning like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, or were you just like, I'm gonna write this book and focus on this book right now, or was that the plan all along?
That was my plan all along. I was like, I'm gonna do freshman year because I was a new writer, so I was looking for ways to kind of extend and get better at my craft. And I was like, 4 books sound like a good starting point. And so as I was writing, like, I'm the type of person where I just sit in my room alone and I just write, and then it just comes to me. And I was like, yeah, I got a way to like really tell this story so kids can just see, the growth and the mistakes, and everything that really happens. They can get a full panoramic view of this character, and I wanted to do that. And so one book wouldn't have sufficed. And my target audience, you know what I'm saying, in the inner city, we don't necessarily like to read books. I didn't read books in high school, and I get it. And so I needed to keep it short, very entertaining, and something that they could relate to want to pick up a book. And so I understood that, and for me to do it, I would have to break it down. And so, when they read a short book, it's an accomplishment. Like, man, I read a book. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so to be able to put out 4 that they can read, they can add that to, what I'm saying, a list of accomplishments. Like, I read 4 books, and it's something that I can relate to and take something away from.
I love it, man. I think that's so great that you had the audience in mind the whole time. You know what I mean? Where you read some books and you can tell that it's autobiographical in nature. There's nothing wrong with the autobiography, but a lot of people love telling their life story versus putting the book out to be like, this is intended for this audience to help them in this way. And you're so clear about articulating that message. I wanted to ask you this too, because I already know the answer, but I want the audience to be able to hear. You could have called it the student athlete, but you called it the athlete student, where the athlete is first. So can you please tell people what the reason is behind that, just so we're clear on that part of it?
Man, so people think when you get a scholarship, right, you are guaranteed 4 years. But I've seen ways where, like, they recruit these kids and they thinking they're gonna be the next big thing, and they get into the program and they stink it up. They find ways to take that scholarship and give it to somebody else, and there's so many loopholes and everything. And then even when you are one of the good athletes, man, athletics does come first. They say focus on your grades first, but if you do that, like, they will find somebody else to replace you. So, for example, I knew this smart. He was like one of one at JMU, where he was an accounting major, and at JMU, that's a pretty big deal. Is a huge time commitment. And for the summer, the coaches want you there at the summer working out, getting ready for the season. But he had this massive internship, and they used that against him because he wasn't there in the summer, and he was taking this internship. Like, everybody can't fully commit to the program. We're trying to better our lives for after school, but no, to these coaches who are getting paid millions of dollars, like, their livelihood is for you to develop and get better, so they ultimately can keep their job, and that's by winning games. And so, yeah, you are quote unquote a student athlete, but if you're not balling first and doing what you're supposed to do on the athletic side, you're not going to get to experience the fruits of being a student. And that's just transparency at its finest. And if you go through it, you understand it. Like, man, you up at 4 o'clock in the morning to be at weightlifting, right? Then you got to watch film, and your classes are scheduled around that. It's not the other way around. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the athletics does come first. And I'm just being honest, and of course it's a play on words. But when you read the book, you see all that he has to do. It's like having 2 full-time jobs, and that's crazy to think about. Like 16 hours of your day, you're trying to do all the stuff on the athletic side, but you still got your schoolwork. And a wise man once told me, a student athlete only has time for 3 things. That's 1, the athletics; 2, being a student; and 3 is like your social life. You only it's 3 things that's competing for your time, but you only have time for 2 of them. Athletics has to be there, right? It has to be there. Because if you're not doing what you're supposed to do on the field or around the locker room, whatnot, they could pull that scholarship. So that means either your social life is going to suffer, or the academic part is going to suffer. And for 18, 19-year-old, you want to experience what college has to offer. And so that's why a lot of times people struggle in school or don't reach their full ability. And it's not because they're not smart enough. It's just the lot that's competing for, your time and attention at a very young age, with the first time you really experience, freedom.
Right. Yeah.
That's long. I keep giving you these long answers, bro. I'm gonna cut them down.
No, please
I feel like
don't,
I have
man.
to explain, just the thought process. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, please don't, man. This is all great. This is all great material. This is perfect. This is exactly what, I'm asking you these questions because I want you to go in depth about this type of stuff. You know what I mean? I want the audience to hear this, because not everyone will know when they see the athlete student. Not everyone is going to know why you put that first. You and I know, obviously, but that's why I wanted to ask you that, so you could go into it. And to your point, man, I don't want to get too deep into the murky waters here, but we also know that there are certain players. I'll just leave it at that. Certain players where the coaching staff may have a little bit more leniency about what they want to do, right? Like certain players are allowed. So we had a quarterback, and the quarterback, he was like a med student, like a pre-med student. And oftentimes he would show up to practice late, or, it was understood, like he can't be in film right now because he's in class, because they're understanding he's setting himself up for life after the game. Whereas you said you play with a guy where the coaches may hold it against certain players. And in case the listeners didn't catch the drift, certain players are treated differently than other players because they're looked at in a different light versus, they're here just to be workhorses and play the sport versus, oh, we want to make sure they're set up after the game. Of course, during the recruiting process, the coaches promise all players that they're going to be set up, but certain players, like I said, we'll just leave it at that. Certain players get a different type of treatment. So thank you for sharing all that, man, because I think that's key for people to get a look under the hood in case they haven't experienced that firsthand,
Yep. A lot of politics involved.
And then, yes, sir. And then also, man, I wanted you, because this is my fault. I didn't tell the listeners what the book is actually about. It's based off a fictional character. Can you just dive into what they can expect from, freshman to now junior year coming out, and then senior year?
Yeah. So it's about this young man named Tootie, who's a phenomenal athlete, right? Way better than I ever was, and I'm just being honest about it. But he has these aspirations of being an NFL athlete, an NFL superstar. So he's committed his life to reaching his goals. But before he can do that, with football, you got to go through college, and so it takes you through the ups, the downs, how he deals with coaches, is the popularity, dealing with females, balancing class, and just the pitfalls, and the successes of being a student athlete to ultimately reach his goal. And so I wanted to really tell a story of the things that happens on a college campus. And this book is not necessarily just for athletes per se. Like if you've been to college or you watch football as a fan, you can take away a lot from this. And so it allows you to have a different perspective of when you even watch, these student athletes play. And sometimes we just watch it for the wins and losses, but we don't know what they're really dealing with. And this paints that picture of the pressure that comes with it, the responsibility that comes with it. And everyone doesn't handle it, by the book. And this character has a lot of have a lot of flaws, and I wanted to put that out there so young kids can get an understanding of the decisions that we make. Consequences are attached to it. That life is bigger than just sports or what people portray on us, and so there's so many different life lessons, and it's not one set goal. Many people would take many different things away from this, but I wanted to put it out there to provide a realistic story to our youth of just the many gifts that they can have if they put their mind to it and don't just be narrowly focused.
You've already done such a great job of accomplishing your mission. It's just like you keep adding layers to the mission that you're already on and the impact that you're already having. Like, I'm excited to see, like, after junior year comes out, of course you got senior year. I'm excited to see, like, what is Eugene gonna do next now that senior year is done? You know what I mean?
A movie's coming out, bro. A movie's coming out. Like I didn't. No, man, I don't know if this is gonna happen, but I throw my goals out there. So I wrote on a piece of paper before I even started freshman year what I wanted to accomplish, or after freshman year finished, what I wanted to accomplish. Like, I want to get on Oprah. I want to be a New York Times bestseller. And I want to see this thing hit Netflix or even, the theaters, because I think it's that important to our culture. And I'm biased because I wrote it. I understand that. But I think it's really entertaining. I think it's a really entertaining novel that can relate to a lot of different people, not just the inner city kids. I have a lot of people that who has bought this book from all different types of backgrounds, who have given me rave reviews. And that's just given me the confidence to know that it is bigger than what I think it is. And so my goals are out there, man. So in 5 years from now, you see this thing on Netflix or on the big screen, you heard it here first.
That's right, man. Man, you dropping exclusives on here. I appreciate that, man. I don't take that lightly, because I was just asking for me. I'm like, man, I wonder what Eugene's gonna do next, but you already got it mapped out. New York Times.
I don't know how I'm gonna get there, though. I don't know how I'm gonna get there.
Hey, man, I have a feeling it's gonna take care of itself, man. Like, because you're already putting out you really are a talented writer, man. Like you said, the stories really are entertaining. So I can definitely, like, it's almost like as I'm reading the book, I see the movie in my head, So by the time the senior year comes out, if you start shopping this thing around, man, I have no doubt somebody, or you could just fund it yourself and put it out and start,
I gotta sell a lot more copies to be able to fund this thing myself. But so that's what a New York Times bestseller. I figure if I can make it there, I'm at least approaching 1 million in sales or something. But honestly, man, COVID has impacted me more than I thought, because most of my book sales come from me going up to people, handing them my business card, giving them my elevator pitch, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I want a book." And I've sold so many more books like that compared to online, that now I can't just go to anybody and hand them my card with the whole COVID-19 thing. So it's like it has put a dampen how I like to get the message out there, because I took the model from Master P. Master P used to have the books in back of his old Cadillac and just go to hood selling his CDs. And that's what I did with the books. They were sitting in my 2004 Camry, and I just popped the trunk, go place to place, and I always have my books on me. But when things get back to normal, I'll continue to do that. I would never lose that, because that gives me a chance to interact with, potential buyers and create these lasting relationships. But a lot of people, everybody's impacted by this thing. So I don't want to, make it sound like, it's just books. But, I do pray and hope that the world gets back to normal, not just only for myself, but, for a lot of people who are, extroverts. I'm an introvert, by the way, but who just likes to be around, different people.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I'm an introverted person too, but even as introverts, we can only be cooped up inside for so long, not being around people, so I feel you, man.
Yeah.
And then also
Exactly.
speaking, because I know you were taking the book on the road, not just getting it out the trunk, but like actually doing different speaking engagements and being able to have an impact that way. Have you seen kind of like a shift lately with just, virtual speaking events or like opportunities to do that? Because I feel like those are starting to pop up more, where even universities are reaching out for like, have you seen any of that?
I haven't done a lot of podcasts in this season. Mainly because I've been writing, and then with the kids being home, just been really busy. And so it's been different for me because, like I said, when I go and meet people, I'm meeting people at the gym, I'm meeting people at the mall, and those things tend to have take a life on its own with word of mouth. And so that's how I'm able to, kind of generate the next thing and then the next thing. And so being, virtual and posting things on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn doesn't create that for me. It doesn't create that positive energy for me like it has when I have, met people and kind of just jumped out there and introduced myself. And I don't know why that is, but just for me, I found what works. And unfortunately, the COVID thing has put a damper on that, but it'll get back to normal.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And I got to ask, you already kind of talked about the bestseller list, the New York Times bestseller being on Oprah, the movie, all that kind of stuff. But I got to ask, when you leave this earth, man, what do you want people to remember about Eugene Holloman? Essentially, like, what do you want your legacy to be?
Man, that's a really good question. I was actually, thinking about this yesterday. Man, that's a good question. I think about generational legacies a lot, like, leaving such and such to the next generation. But this is a way that I not only leave it to my lineage, but um, to strangers across the world. I don't think athletics is going anywhere. I don't think the inner city kids who desire better for themselves, right? To make it out, they're still gonna have to rely on the physical. Even though they got it mentally, they're gonna rely on it in the physical because our culture highlights athletics and the glory that comes with it. And so naturally kids are going to want to be that. They're going to want to be the LeBron James, the Kevin Durant's, the Russell Wilsons of the world, the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryant's, right? They're going to want to be that. And there's going to be a lot of people who push them to do that. And they may have a shift. They want to be a lawyer or a doctor or president or whatever have it. That they can absolutely do that, right? Just because you are gifted in athletics doesn't mean you have to want to go to the NFL or the NBA or MLB or whatever have it. You can absolutely do anything you put your mind to. And I think this is one of the things that comes across in the book is that, I was born with this gift that I can run faster, jump higher, but I'm equally impressive intellectually. And sometimes we put that stigma on, definitely on young African American kids, is that they're supposed to be athletic. Like this is what you're supposed to excel in. But the numbers are stacked up against that, right? As what I mean, everybody can't make it big time. But you're equally impressive what's in here and how you educate yourself. And you can use that to reach the highest of heights. And it's not just athletics. And so I want kids to know that. And I want that to change where I go into the doctor's office and I see somebody that looks like me. I go to the dentist and I see someone that looks like me. I go wherever. And it's not just about how we look anymore. It's like, are you qualified to do so? And we are, the most qualified creatures to do that. But a lot of people don't tell us because we only see majority of the time when we turn on ESPN that, is we represent the majority of the athletes. But we turn on like sitcoms where lawyers and doctors are being played, we the minority. And so if that can shift, man, and my book can play a small part in that, that would be a legacy right there in itself.
Yeah, man, I think the book plays a huge part in that. And I think, like I was saying earlier, I think you've already accomplished, not started to, but you like if you died today, I don't even want to put that out into the universe. My bad, man. But I'm saying you've already accomplished what you set out to accomplish. and it's only going up from here. Like you halfway through the journey of writing the 4-part series.
Yeah.
So, you know, man, congratulations to you for everything. Like I said, you have my respect since 2018. Once I just read that small little segment that you were writing on the book, I'm like, this is real, man. This is legit. This is some real authentic stuff going on here.
Likewise, man. Likewise.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And I definitely want to give people a chance to find out how they can connect with you, how they can follow you, how they can get copies of the books. Please share all that information with everybody, man.
Yeah. So Instagram, Twitter is Gene Duke 14. So GeneDuke, the number 14. Also, you can find the books on theathletestudent.com. Man, just email me, reach out. I'm a very approachable person. I like to interact with, definitely potential readers of the novel. I like to discuss particular things, and your support is greatly appreciated. Like you, Taj, being a minority author, man, you don't necessarily get the credit like you deserve, but it's an important aspect of just the whole genre of book writing that is definitely needed, and our voices need to be heard, and it only comes by or comes from the individuals that show that support. And so the more support you show, the quicker the message can get out to reach those who can benefit it from the most.
I love it, man. Well said. Everybody, please go get in touch with this man. Go grab the book, like he said, at theathletestudent.com. You know, if you're a former athlete or a current athlete, you'll see a lot of yourself as you're reading the story. It may even, I would argue, as you're reading the story, it can help heal parts of yourself that may not be healed, because you'll be able to relate to that experience through the fictional character in the book, but also like gift it to your younger siblings, you know, your kids, nieces, nephews, cousins, whoever, so that they can be set up and understand what it's like to go through college, and they can be able to have a story that keeps them engaged and entertained, so that they can learn the lessons that Eugene has learned throughout his career, but to be able to put that into, you know, a small format, easily digestible. Definitely go check it out. Great content. Eugene, thank you again for coming on Author Spotlight, man. This has been a dope conversation. We went a million different directions, which I love because there's so much content packed in here, man. You dropped so many gems. And, I appreciate you, man. We're going to have you back on, especially once the junior year drops.
Absolutely, man. Best of luck to you, man. And again, thanks for having me.
No doubt, man. Take care, everybody. This has been another episode of Author Spotlight with Eugene Holloman. We'll see you on the next episode.